So I often find myself running. Where is it? This. So like into bugs, for instance, bugs. You generally need an answer to a few things. You need an answer to Bile Titans. You need an answer to Charger. Right, well, Bile Titans and Impalers is what I'll put down here. You need an answer to Chargers. You need an answer to Bile Viewers. That's how you spell that. There we go. You need Chaff Clear. And you need, how to put this? Shrieker Kill. And Hole Closing.
Which generally you want to try to group as many of those up as you can in one, which is why I like the Cookout, because the Cookout answers Chaff, it answers some medium targets that aren't like Chargers, and it answers Shriekers really, really well.
Yeah, so like just to like give an idea of what Athena is saying here. So the Cookout Shotgun is doing fire damage as well as the 320 regular damage.
So like one bullet tag on a Shrieker will kill them from
yeah.
the burn damage.
So with this, we can say we've probably got this knocked out, a little bit of this knocked out.
It's also very ammo efficient, so you don't run out of ammo super often.
But we're knocking down those two things with just one thing that we've added to the kit, just already. So with a secondary, you're looking at like trying to solve one of these other issues. And to like solve Bile Titans or Chargers, you're going to need something like the Ultimatum, which I wouldn't recommend as an answer. You're only realistically getting 2 shots out of this. You're always going to see at least 3 or 4 of these things on the screen in Super Helldive, so sticking to a weapon like that is only going to catch you off guard when you least need that to be the case.
It's also very slow reload and a very hard to use weapon.
Yes. So a lot of people will just run like this.
If you want to try it, I'd recommend 100%. You kind of have to take the supply pack. Because I did that for a while. I ran Cookout Ultimatum, and that was my answer. It wasn't very clean a lot of the times, but it was a lot better back when you got the extra ammo from it.
Yeah, before they did the change to it, it kind of made some things fall apart. So the GP31 grenade pistol is a big favorite. The LAS-7 dagger is a big favorite to a lot of people.
I love the Verdict. I am a big Verdict fan because the Verdict also very cleanly answers spewers.
Yes, so like that's a good call because the other thing is the Verdict is also very ammo efficient, and so the Verdict is really good if you want both of your weapons to be able to kill Shriekers. Having a weapon that's very, very capable of killing spewers, very, very capable of like medium clear, which is basically like kind of what's going on here. This like and medium kill. So like that's your brood commanders, your stalkers, things like that. Those enemies.
If you're accurate, the Verdict can one clip an alpha commander. It's very hard to do, but it can one clip, and it can do it very quick if you got a good trigger finger. Hive guards are also very quick to kill. You can kill them in I think half a clip, but I generally just dump the whole thing in them.
Yeah, if you're very accurate with it, you can blow their heads off. And I want to say half a mag. I'd have to pull up the Helldivers wiki to verify.
It's very hard. It's very hard to get an idea of how many bullets it takes to kill something with the Verdict because you can spam it really quick. But it will one tap anything below a Hive guard if you hit them in the head.
Yeah. And so like you're not gonna have hole closing here, but we'll say for instance you want to run something like this. That's gonna be your medium kill. So your grenade. You've got your chaff clear down, so you're not really worried about a grenade that's super good at chaff clear. You're now more or less looking for a grenade that's letting you sort out hole closing, unless you're planning on taking a support weapon doing something like that.
If you're looking for hole closing specifically from your grenade, and that's all you need, one of the best ones is frag grenade.
Yep.
Because frag grenade has 5 charges.
Yes.
Alternatively, if you don't plan on taking a big dedicated support weapon for killing chargers, thermite is also a very good idea because it can close holes in a pinch, and it will kill chargers if you stick them in the head.
Yes. I make the argument with where this kit is going that you're probably not going to need thermite. You might need just a little tiny bit of assistance with like getting quick kills on a ton of enemies, because the cookout's really good at putting certain enemies down, but a lot of its damage comes from that after the after fire effect.
Personally, because we're kind of going towards my kit, I use gas grenade because they blow up holes pretty quick. They're very good at crowd control as well, which we don't necessarily need that, but doubling down on that isn't the worst thing when you're only losing one grenade from frag.
Yeah, so now you've got like extra deep into chaff clear, you've got hole closing covered. Like, now all you realistically need to worry about at this point is finding an answer to chargers and finding an answer to Bile Titans and Impalers. Your day-to-day playstyle, or like your constant run, is going to come out of the weapons that you like, because there's a lot of good weapons in the game now, but weapons are kind of where people find themselves to be the most comfortable.
If you're looking at this build, alternatives to the cookout would be like the Blitzer. Blitzer would be really good. Plasma Punisher would be a pretty acceptable replacement as well. Mostly I'm using the cookout for splash because it spreads out over an area really, really well.
Yeah. I mean,
Breaker Incendiary is also another really good choice.
And if you're just kind of looking for something that's going to work, this is another great option if you can get that earlier.
Alternatively, I don't see a lot of people using it. The Halt is a very good dual purpose weapon.
Yeah, so the Halt, which is right here, from the Truth Enforcer's Warbond. It has 2 different damage outputs, so it's got a flechette rounds, which are actually medium armor penetrating, and it's got a stun round, which can stun everything up to a charger for, get this, 5 whole seconds. That is a 5-second stun. It sits there and does nothing for you.
If it's not a charger, it will push it back really far too. Like really far. Yeah. It's just hard to get used to swapping modes, and you do have to reload each one individually.
Yeah, this is a skill check weapon. If you can pass that skill check, you're gonna do great things. But for clearing large amounts of crowds, the Halt can kind of keep pace, but it's never going to compete one for one with something like the Cookout or the Breaker Incendiary, which you kind of just
you're paying a bit of damage for utility. It is also worth noting that the stun round is a slug shot.
Yes.
Pretty sure.
Yes. It's either a slug or a very, very tight cone.
I'm pretty sure it's a slug.
But regardless. Okay. So now that we've kind of gotten the meat and potatoes put together through our like base kit, chargers and Bile Titans and Impalers we need to have an answer to them. So first thing we're gonna look at is gonna be our support weapons here, and there's a lot of really good options, but you're kind of looking to see if you can answer one of those 2 things while also kind of like having something that isn't going to hinder you in another field, right?
The first thing I ask when looking at a support weapon is, do I want to take a backpack with me? If not, recoilless is probably my go-to answer if I'm not looking at a backpack slot. If I am looking at taking another backpack, I know I have a few options, and it's going to depend on the mission type I'm going into.
We'll just go with that as a baseline option though, with recoilless, because that's a standard thing that a lot of people will pull out into bugs. You see it, it's very popular. Backpacks don't tend to be something that matter as hugely on the bug front, as long as you're able to make effective use of this weapon against those bigger enemies, such as our chargers, our Bile Titans, and Impalers here. That's also really good answer to that.
It's also one of the more user-friendly answers. I'd say only losing to like the Quasar.
Yes, which is going to be all the way down here. Quasar is one of those quick answers that a lot of people will select if they do want to have a backpack. Generally that backpack is, you know, one of the rovers or the shielder supply backpack. There's not really a whole lot of room to do any of the other backpacks into bugs unless you're willing to get really, really good with the jetpacks, or you've got, you know, just this real fun way about you that you like to just blow yourself up with a portable hell bomb. Like, if that's you, more power to you. But, you know.
You had that in S tier, well, the other day, right?
Yes.
S plus tier? S plus tier, I mean?
Verging. Not for bugs, though. Definitely not. Anyway.
Remember, by the way, because the portable hell bomb was mentioned, you can drop that thing once you arm it.
You can drop it off your back. Okay, so now that you've got an answer to everything, and you have 3 remaining stratagem slots, you've got your Bile Titans and Impalers dealt with, you've got your Chargers dealt with here, you've got some chaff clear that you've doubled down on through your primary weapon and your grenade, which is great. You've got an answer to your medium enemies, such as your Bile Spewers and Brood Commanders and things like that, in your secondary weapon. And you got a Shrieker answer in that primary weapon, lets you just kind of hammer away into the sky, knock them out by burning them to death. And you've got hole closing through your grenade as well, which is just fantastic to have. It's a really rock solid grenade. Now you've kind of got 3 fallback options in the rest of your stratagems here. And so it's kind of going to depend on what sort of mission you're going to. But if you're like me and you aren't just playing this game to one-man army all the time, you should try to look for a stratagem here that lets you help out teammates, at least to some degree. And so what that means is maybe a sentry, or some sort of defensive option, or some sort of like a crowd control option that lets you get a little bit more power over the flow of battle. And so like one of the popular ones that a lot of people have been taking recently has been the orbital gas strike, which is somewhere in here. I believe it's in the bridge. Yes.
Orbital
right here.
gas strike is just going to be like another version of your grenade, but it's going to be bigger and last quite a bit longer.
It's a very large area. It lasts quite a bit longer. It does have the benefit of being some detonation force that's higher than anything else you have here. So
it'll close your bile holes. Very importantly, that's what that is what in this kit is going to be able to close bile holes, because it comes up really quick.
So that is one of those things that I was saying I wanted to bring up when we got into the stratagem side of things. There are Bile Titan holes on Helldive and above. So this has the demolition force that you need. You just kind of chuck it into the hole. It has what you need in order to put those away. You'll close those with this. And that's just going to be off of your orbital gas, which is only a 75-second cooldown before you start getting any of the additional boosts, buffs, and benefits, which is really, really good. The other thing that that's doing is it is now tripling down on your chaff clear. It is giving you some very, very helpful crowd control over a lot of enemies in the game, because they're no longer just charging straight at you. It can help very much put a wall between yourself and chargers. It's not going to kill chargers, but it is going to make killing chargers significantly easier, because they're just not going to run straight at you as much. So you have a little bit more time to kind of work them, rodeo them, and get yourself in a position where you're able to kill them.
Another important thing that you mentioned earlier was if you see a teammate getting swarmed and running, you can toss that behind them, and it'll protect their escape.
Exactly. So that's that supportive side of things. The other thing that this does is there's one thing that the bugs do that the other factions do not do to the same degree, and that is breaches. This is one of the best answers that you can have to bug breaches. You will get at least 2 of them off in every super Helldive bug breach. You'll get one right at the start if you know the call-in is happening. You wait for those first and second holes to pop up. You figure out where the biggest group of the enemies is going to be, and you toss that sucker, and hopefully it lands in the middle of all 3 breach points. And then you are contaminating that entire area and all of those enemies with this, and you're doing so much help for your team, and it's a wonderful thing to have for that. There's a few other stratagems that do this. Orbital Napalm is one of them. The airstrike, the Eagle Napalm strike is really, really good at this. Just chucking your gas grenades in there is really, really good at this.
Gatling barrage.
Having Gatling barrage is really, really good at this. Even the airburst barrage is kind of okay. Like, I wish it was a little better. I'm sorry?
It's a little better at lower levels than Helldive.
Airburst is a bit better at lower levels because it's only medium penetration. But having that as a just flat out answer to all of the lighter enemies that come out of that hole is going to be really good. You just want to make sure that you're not throwing it too soon, or you're going to end up wasting a lot of its potential.
If you get really good and you only play at like 7 and below, I'd recommend Airburst actually really well. If you get good at the timing, because it'll slam into them as each wave spawns.
So
basically, you just get the chargers.
I would say we've doubled down on breaches here, because just having gas grenades and gas strikes is going to let you do quite a bit of work with that. And then we're going to need some like better heavy hitter clear. So this is going to be stuff that, like, if you have a really major breach and you need to solve it. And when it comes to that, there's a lot of different schools of thought on how you want to do it. And this is going to be a playstyle choice for you. Are you the type of person that wants to be mobile, or are you the type of person that kind of wants to find a position and kind of hold it against the bugs? And if you want to be mobile, there is no better place to look than the Orbital Napalm Barrage. Okay? That lets you kind of just drop it, run away, build your distance, circle around the point, however you want to deal with it, and it's going to deal with 99% of the enemies that are coming out of that hole. The rest can be dealt with by your recoilless.
If you were here earlier, I actually made a comment about not having my Orbital Napalm that I normally have.
Yeah.
Because I took a little bit of a different kit. I normally take it for that exact reason.
Exactly. Like, it's a very, very good answer to that. Now, if you want to do something that's maybe a little bit more one-man army, where, you know, you don't mind slugging it out with the enemy, you're kind of a little bit more willing to hold a position, then we're going to look at some of our sentries. And the best one for starting and holding down breaches is going to be your Gatling sentry. And the reason that that's a really rock solid answer for you is because you still have recoilless to help protect that Gatling sentry against the 2 enemies that are going to be the biggest threat against it. And that's going to be chargers right here and bile titans. There's one more enemy that causes a little bit of trouble for that, but because the Gatling sentry is a bullet type and not like the rocket sentry or something like that, it will have an answer to them, and that is pouncers. And that's because pouncers will just immediately jump on whatever the closest Helldiver related paraphernalia is when they spawn, and they do tend to be really, really good at taking out turrets because of that, because the turrets just aren't able to rotate around generally fast enough. This one, however, is.
That's the one reason I like Cookout too, is if you happen to tag your sentry, you're not doing a lot of damage to it.
That's, yes. So this is kind of an either or option for that. And to be honest, if you really want to go wild and crazy and just double down on that ability, running Gatling and Napalm with recoilless in this is solving a lot of problems for you. All right, like
I do that occasionally.
This is solving a lot of problems for you. The problem here is if you do have a playstyle like preference to where you prefer to not get stuck, you're kind of wasting a stratagem slot. If you don't mind getting stuck and you kind of want to stay and hold a spot, napalm's really, really good, and this leans much more into that.
I would recommend a hybrid style there if you're going to want to do that, of switching to machine gun turret, because machine gun turret can be a lot more agile than Gatling turret.
Yes, and that's a really good point right there. The lower cooldown of machine gun turret by like leaps and bounds lets you kind of just position this thing wherever you need it and gives you a bit more help there. So, like, again, this last slot is really, really good for just eagle stratagems in general, because most eagle stratagems in this game are workhorses. All right, they're doing more than one thing generally. They're maybe leaning a little bit more to one particular behavior or one particular niche because of the separation of them, but they're generally going to do a pretty rock solid job of a little bit of everything.
That last slot right there could really be any eagle. 500 would work really well. Strafing works really well.
So yeah, so exactly where I was going. 500 strafing run and airstrike are going to be like really, really rock solid go-tos. If you find that you just generally need a little bit more wide space chaff clear to follow up the gas, cluster bomb is an excellent choice. If you're running heavy armor and you kind of want to stay a little bit longer, you can run napalm strike. Napalm strike is capable of destroying holes. Cluster is really not. Airstrike is like a really, really rock solid option here because it will do damage to every single enemy on the list. So this will let you double down on Bile Titans, Chargers, Bile Spewers and medium kill, generic chaff clear, hole closing. It's still a really good option for all of that. Eagle strafing run does much of the same. It's kind of just to taste for you. Do you want something that gets something out of your face in a snap, or do you not mind giving yourself a little bit of time and letting the airstrike come in and maybe hit a little bit harder?
The main difference is 500 only has 2 charges. 1 charge if you don't have the upgrade, whereas strafing has 4 or 5.
Yeah. You get an eagle. Eagle's going to have 3. You've got strafing with 4. Like, you're in a good place with either one of those. My recommendation for something like this is going to be strafing run. It's a very, very fast answer to some of these enemies that are really good at crowding you. And it's much less likely to kill you than running something like cluster or airstrike. Because what will happen is, you get the stratagem ball ready, you just get popped out of nowhere, either by an ally or an enemy, you drop it. With strafing run, at least for the most part, as long as you're not sent ragdoll careening, you know about where it's going to go, so you can kind of clear the area. It's generally not going to aim behind you. It's generally going to be at least 180 degrees in front of where you were, so if you can kind of keep in mind where you were and get behind that space, you're going to be safe.
The core idea of this build, though, is you're kind of like the scout for the group. You'll notice that if I run a build like this and I'm playing with Sin here, I'm generally ahead of the group and I'm the first to engage a lot of the times. Usually I engage with something like strafing run to just clear out the chaff, thin it down. And then once they get in, you kind of fall back a little bit to like pepper, like hook out on them, or you dive deeper while they're distracted to complete the objective. It's you're not in the front lines. You're wanting to skirt around the fight while dropping stratagems and peppering them with the cookout.
So how do you know if your build is going to be good or not? So we look back at our description box right here, which I've got, pulled up for us. What do we have? We have 2 answers to Bile Titans and Impalers, and that's going to come through our strafing run and our recoilless. One is clearly not superior, or one is clearly superior to the other, but having one other in your back pocket is really, really good. We've got 2 answers to Chargers for the exact same thing that's going on there. We have 2 answers to Bile Spewers and medium enemy kill. We have 4 answers to Chaff Clear, which is amazing because this is a very, very chaff heavy enemy faction. You're not going to be running into nearly as many medium armor enemies as you are into those light armor enemies. We have an answer to the rare enemy type, the Shriekers. I say rare, sometimes you just get an unlucky draw and stuff gets crazy, but you know, it's Shriekers, Stalkers, or you know, Chargers. That's kind of how the seeds are going to go, and how they're going to kind of mix you up, right? You have 2 answers for closing bug holes. Technically, you have 3 answers for closing bug holes in your recoilless. You really shouldn't be using it for that, but you got 2 really rock solid answers in your gas grenade and your eagle strafing run. If you want to get a little shicey with it, you can say you technically have 4, and that's because you also have your gas strike, which is really, really good at clearing holes, and you have your recoilless rocket, which is really, really good at that. You do have an answer to Bile Titan holes. You need to make sure you're bringing at least something that can answer Bile Titan holes. You don't want to be wasting your resupply on that. You can kill it with dropping like a recoilless backpack, but again, that's another thing you don't also want to just waste on that.
I was about to say, notably, you can use your support weapon or backpack in a pinch, but that can get you in a bad spot.
Yeah. And then you have a double answer to breaches, which is like, if you're digging that deep into making sure you can answer breaches, you're not running a runner build. Like, that you are standing to fight. If you're going to take enough answers to breaches that, you know, it's half of your kit, let's be honest. You're standing and fighting. Like, you are here to kill farm them. But yeah. So what do we notice about all of these things? 2, 2, 2, 4, 2, 4, 1, 2 here. As long as basically everything has 2 next to it or more, you've got a good build here. Like, if you can get everything with 2 or more next to it, you're good. If you only have one thing, or if one of these things only has 1 answer in your kit to it, you're gonna struggle into that. I'm calling this build Bugs Bunny, because you're just running all over the place, as a rabbit would do, getting all of the enemies in the entire map to chase you, as would a dog track be. They're just running around chasing the rabbit, and the rabbit is you, and the rabbit is armed and dangerous, and has an answer to everything.
Strafing, run them down.
Yep. Like, this is a very, very rock solid build. There's a reason Athena basically runs this build constantly, with minor variations here and there just to spice up the game, because it does get boring when you run a build that's as efficient as this. This is a very good loadout. It has answers to every question the game asks
for a while.
Yeah.
I've refined that build to that point over a pretty long period.
And I definitely recommend either Hellpod space optimization here or vitality enhancement.
I would argue if you're running this build, you have to have Hellpod space to some extent, because the cookout at 30 ammo versus 60 is night and day.
Yes.
You also burn through stems on light armor with a build like this.
Yes. So that's why this would be my first recommendation. Vitality would be my second recommendation for it. And then the third option, you know, say you're dropping into a 4 group and somebody's taken those 2 items, or you're under the DCS and Hellpod's not an issue and somebody took Vitality, just go ahead and grab Stamina for yourself. Being faster than fast, ka-chow, is really good. Now, like, let's just go from here and then go through the list. Precision Strike and 500 kg, those are going to solve your Bile Titans and Impalers. You still have 2 answers to that. Rock solid. You still have 2 answers to Chargers in both of those items. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to do so. There's going to be maybe a little bit of struggle to it if you're not real familiar with them. But you can absolutely make that work. For medium kill and medium clear, you now have 2 new answers to that. So you're going to nix 1 for the strafing run, add 1 for the 500 kg, but now with Precision Strike, if those medium enemies ever clump up, you've got a pretty constant and continuous use of orbital precision strike. I know it says 100 seconds right here. Once you get all the upgrades to it, it's closer to like 74 or 80, I believe. I think it's like an 80-second cooldown.
It's worth noting that this variation is a hell of a lot more mobile, which means that you're probably looking for more of stamina to help you with this.
Yes. So, like, let's look at where that puts us. That's 2, 2, 3, 4 here, because you still have some good answers to all of your crowd enemies. I argue possibly even 500 kg counts pretty good for crowd clear, because if you get a pile of enemies together, the 500 kg does have the ability to take out a pretty large portion of that, so that's good. Your Shrieker's skill is still at 2 here, because you get the cookout and the verdict there, so those are still pretty good options. Hole closing is now at 4. Bile Titan holes you now have 3 answers to, which is fantastic. And you're at 3 answers to breaches here, because you still have the napalm, you still have the gas, and then 500 kg is a really, really good answer to breaches, because if you get some heavy enemies popping out of holes in the breaches, 500 kg is the only stratagem aside from 380 that has any chance of killing multiple heavy enemies coming out of the breach at the same time. It's the only one that does it. It's the only one. And it's on you to do that, but yeah. You do lack, like, on-demand answers to chargers and Bile Titans here, but if you're just smart about how you're calling these things in, you bank yourself a precision strike. You just kind of focus mostly on using the 500 kg to do most of the work there. You back it up with the precision strike when you need it. It's like having a backup recoilless, except it's going to do way more damage. You can punch through a ton of stuff. Like, it's a generally better stratagem if you can deal with a slight cooldown on it. But yeah, meets everything, real fast, real rock solid.